So, Gershon, let's talk about the price, 1,027 prisoners, of whom one was Yahya Sinwar.
Right.
In retrospect, was it a good deal? There was an enormous price paid by Israel, and obviously the attacks of 7th of October having been orchestrated and masterminded by Yahya Sinwar, one of the 1,027 people who was released, obviously has had a devastating effect on Israel. When you look back retrospectively, are there regrets?
I don't have any regrets, but let me put something into context for a moment. The 450 prisoners who were released from the Hamas list included about 300 people who had murdered Israelis, including 4 who were responsible for murdering my wife's first cousin. They were released in the deal. The negotiations that I took part in were aimed at the principles of the deal and focused mainly on mitigating the risks to Israel. And I acted on Israeli Mossad instructions demands. The 25, first of all, there was a list of 50 of the most dangerous prisoners on a list. In the end, the agreement that I reached with Hamas was that we would compromise in the middle, and 25 of them would be released, and they would all be deported outside of Israel and Palestine forever, never allowed to come back. That was thought to mitigate the risk. Israel wanted the majority, or if not all, the West Bank prisoners to be sent to Gaza. In the end, the deal that we arrived at was that 50% minus 1 of the West Bank prisoners would be sent to Gaza, so that Hamas could claim that a majority of West Bank prisoners were allowed to go to their homes in the West Bank. The decision was that the Israelis wanted to remove as many of these people from the West Bank as possible, thinking in Gaza they would be less of a risk. Of the 300 murderers of Israelis who were released in the deal, Yahya Sinwar was not one of them, because Yahya Sinwar never murdered an Israeli. He had murdered Palestinian collaborators or people suspected of being collaborators with Israel. He wasn't even in the list of the most dangerous people. The Israeli security didn't think that he was a dangerous prisoner because he had never killed an Israeli. So he wasn't even one that they limited. There were about 8 or 10 names who were removed from the list by Israel. Israel simply refused to release them and would not even negotiate with the people who were considered the most dangerous and the ones who had murdered the most amount of Israelis. Yahya Sinwar was not one of them. In fact, I'll get to that in a moment. There was no other deal possible to bring Gilad Shalit home. And another month in captivity, Gilad Shalit would have been dead from malnutrition because he couldn't absorb the food that he was eating anymore. And that would have destroyed what we believe is part of our society, that we don't leave anyone home. Hamas knew it as well. Gilad Shalit had value as long as he was alive. A dead Gilad Shalit wouldn't be valuable to them. And there was an opportunity. The stars had aligned because there were new people in all the security positions in Israel. Netanyahu had made the decision to bring him home. Hamas was ready to make this deal. They had made compromises like exiling terrorists and sending terrorists to Gaza. And it had to be done. I had nothing to do with the selections of the names, and I'm not avoiding responsibility here. I'm quite proud of the role that I played in bringing Gilad Shalit home. I think it was an essential part of who we are as a people that we brought Gilad Shalit home. The failure is not the deal that was made with Hamas.